I live in Minnesota, about 50 miles south of Minneapolis. And yesterday in Minneapolis, and even today, we had the Black Fourth. We had people marching, protesting, if you will, the 4th of July, because in 1776, we did not achieve complete freedom for all people in America. And as someone, myself, as someone who is deeply, deeply concerned with freedom for all people, this is really disturbing to me because I believe that it will lead to less freedom and not more. So if we look at what happened in the Revolutionary War, and that war was not about slavery. It was about taxation without representation. And I believe that we could not, first of all, you can't combine those two in the same war. It's way too much, and you'll never get agreement. You're not going to get people focused. You're not going to be able to win anything. They're just two completely different subjects that cannot be combined and fought in the same war. Secondly, I don't believe that we could fight a war over slavery without having first become grounded as a country in who we were. We had to crystallize the fact that we were a nation of people who were individuals and believed in individual rights and could create a system of government that would support that. It was imperfect. It still is imperfect. It has a lot of problems. Everything that humans do constantly needs another level of perfecting it, of improving it. Not perfecting it, but improving it. And everything in nature also. Everything always has to evolve towards something better. So it is not perfect. But we had to put that in place to even have the foundation to tackle the issue of slavery, which is huge, for human beings. And with that foundation in place, we did then go on to tackle slavery. And when we tackled that, we still did not have complete freedom for all, but we made a huge incremental step towards it. And then later on, we said, you know what? We no longer have slaves, but we have a lot of laws that are really awful to the same population of people that used to be slaves. And we started getting rid of those laws. And by we, I mean everybody, blacks and whites together worked on this, and all colors, other colors too, just human beings worked on this issue. And even now, prior to all the protests and prior to all the violence that just recently happened, we had people like myself and others constantly saying, it's still not enough. We still need more. Hello, Pamela. I can't read much because of the lighting, but anyway, hello. So, freedom is incremental, right? It happens, and all progress is incremental. It happens over time. And you have to build some strength in one area to move to the next area. And even if you look at how human beings grow, right, freedom isn't something you come into the world fully having and fully capable of having. A 2-year-old child does not have the freedom of an adult. They have a lot more constraints in their world, and an adult level of freedom would terrify a 2-year-old child. They don't have the capacity yet to operate in that paradigm, in that big of a box, right? I mean, a 2-year-old needs like a choice between 2 colors, not all the colors in the world. And, a 2-year-old needs the choice between, you can either eat or play right now, but you can't do anything in the world that you want to do right now. So freedom is something that we develop a capacity to handle more of as we mature as individuals, and as a culture. I believe that same thing happens because I just did a video about this, but freedom ends at the point that we get afraid. That's the point at which you resort to instincts, which are not free. It's pre-programmed behavior. So, as a culture, we have to build, and we get afraid at the point at which we lose our grounding. We lose our sense of self in relation to others. So your grounding isn't just who you are, it's being able to stay in who you are in the face of other energy coming at you, in the face of resistance, in the face of pressure, in the face of energy coming towards you. Can you still stay in who you are? And when we can no longer do that, we go into a place of fear, and then we go into instinct, and we go into all the negative things that people do, except it's not all negative, because fear serves a very important purpose of saving your life in a truly physically dangerous situation, or at least giving you the best chance of saving your life when you can no longer process what's going on. So fear is not, or instinct is not inherently bad. It serves a legitimate and useful purpose, necessary purpose. But what we want to do is, as a society, to be constantly pushing out the level at which we go into instinct. And this is something that we build over time. We have been building that capacity. It started with just knowing who we are in the Revolutionary War. Who are we as a country? What do we stand for? And then it progressed to, if we stand for that, we can't have slavery. And then it progressed to, if we stand for that and we can't have slavery, we can't have these laws. So we have progressed as people, as we've gained more confidence and grounding and practice. And every time we get better at it, we see a new level of constraint. And that's fine. Then we go and we work on that and we free it, and then we see a new level of constraint, and that will never end. And it's not necessarily blacks and whites or women and men. It could be anything, right? We'll see a new constraint that needs to be tackled. So to condemn that drive towards freedom is a very, very terrible thing to do. And it's not going to cause that to keep happening. It's going to cause people to go into fear and fight back and say, wow, if I get condemned and threatened and everything else for going there, maybe we shouldn't go there, right? And it's more than that. What it does is it has this funny way of fighting for the rights of the individual by subverting the individual to a group, which is really odd to me. So what it's doing is trying to put every individual in the country into a group. And various people define these differently. It could be skin color group, or it could be pro skin color group, even if that isn't your skin color. Or it could be unrelated to skin color. It could be unrelated to racism. But what we're trying to do is say that everybody should be treated fairly. Every individual should be treated fairly. So we're going to subvert your individual person to a group, lump you in there no matter who you are, no matter what you think, no matter what you do, call you a part of that group, and then use groups for power, right? And so it becomes a power play. There's only two reasons really that you join groups. One is to create more than you can create on your own via the path of flow and creation, right? Because you can bring in different stresses, different knowledge, different energies, different capacities than you have by yourself, and create something with it. And the other thing is to have power over others. Those are the only two reasons that we join together as social animals, right? So when you're latching on to group identity so solidly and forcing people into groups and declaring that that is who they are because they're a part of that group that you forced them into, by the way, is clearly in the camp of being a part of a group to have physical power over others, which is exactly what we're fighting against. So this is not going to be successful in the end. And I would argue I probably need to study this more, but from everything I can recall, I would argue that every time that we, either individually or culturally, at whatever scale you want to look at, have stepped into a new level of freedom, we only did it by stepping into a new level of beauty. You can only step into a new level of freedom by stepping into a new level of beauty. And by beauty, I mean the beauty of flow, the beauty of being grounded in who you are and being able to flow all the energy around you, through you, and partake in nature's energetic flow system. At that point, we can say, enough, we're going to move forward. And it's only at that point, if you think of every time in your life when you finally became more free, just in the, not free legally, but just free in how you live, it was a moment where you stepped into greater beauty, into open strength, into who you truly are. And every battle that's been won on the battlefield that resulted in greater freedom was won when the people stood up in we're going to create this instead. And so I believe that an increase in freedom is necessarily tied to an increase in beauty, an increase of standing firmly grounded in who you are, not a decrease of yourself into a group. We may need to join together to achieve it, but that joining has to come from a grounded place of who you are. That, by definition, is a state of fear and will send us into instinct, fight, flight, freeze. And that is what I of it, the juice of it, and increase it more for the next step. Then we're going to see real progress on this issue. Okay, that's